Okay, so it is iPhone 16 season starting tomorrow, but I got my hands on some early units from Apple. I got the 16 Plus in the new teal color and the 16 Pro in the white titanium. So we're gonna go ahead and box both of these, give you my first impressions of the new design and some of the new features. This is basically a very, very early first impressions video, so let's dive into it. Okay, so I think I wanna start with the 16 Plus because it's the brand new teal color, and then we'll go to the 16 Pro afterwards. This is always the fun part. That there. Right, this is the fun part. Get that box open. And there it is. Oh my goodness. It looks even better in person. This teal is incredible. Oh my goodness. It almost looks kind of like a greenish blue in person. It really pops. There it is on the side, so you can see that color, and then here on the front, or on the back I mean. So rumor has it there was no more Apple stickers, and that is true. It's just the charging cable, and then just some manuals that I think that no one ever reads. This is the tiniest manual ever. Oh my goodness. But the fun part here, I'm gonna go ahead and just take off the top. Wow. And there you go. That is teal for iPhone 16. All right, now it's time for the 16 Pro, white titanium. That off there, that off there. Always the best part, getting it out of the box. Whoa. Okay, I've actually never ever used a white titanium iPhone ever. Like I think I only saw it once in person, and that was actually today at Apple HQ in Toronto when I picked up these phones. And look at that, it is like really white. I actually might be a big fan of this. I used to love natural titanium, but this white, oh my goodness, this looks really good. Obviously the best part. And voila, that is 16 Pro in white titanium. So I wanted to highlight one more time the teal design, because this is a brand new color. This is the 16 Plus. It is a very bold color. It's lighter on the panel here, and then obviously darker around the camera ring. It looks fantastic. There is a new camera control button, which we'll get to in a second. And then very quickly, another look at the white titanium color. I think this actually looks better than natural titanium in my humble opinion. So if you're debating between those two colors, I'd probably go with this one. This just really pops in my opinion. Okay, so if you made it to this point in the video, I've already spent a few hours with the brand new iPhone 16 and 16 Pro, and now I'm gonna be sharing my first impressions of using this phone and sort of all the new features that you can expect, starting with the 16, which I believe is probably the biggest upgrade out of like the whole lineup this year. So the big reason, like the push for Apple here to get everybody to buy the new iPhone, is the fact that these are built from the ground up for Apple Intelligence. There's gonna be a bunch of new features that we've seen that were demoed and that look really amazing, but the caveat is that none of it is available day one. So when you buy this iPhone tomorrow on launch day, you're getting nothing out of the box right away. The first rollout of new Apple Intelligence features is not gonna be until October, with later drop dates throughout the year for all the stuff that is being promised from the keynote. So that's a little bit weird, to be honest. It's like new territory for Apple, and I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this. I'm gonna dive deeper into how I feel about that and kind of, you know, if you should buy something that's not quite ready yet in the full review, but for now, let's just focus on the new features that are here today. In terms of design changes, there are three main things for the 16. There are brand new colors that are bright, vibrant, and bold, and I personally think that pink is just an awesome looking color. The actual display glass that Apple calls Ceramic Shield is supposed to be 50% stronger than last year. I'm not gonna test that out, let's just take their word for it. And there's a couple of brand new buttons this year on the base iPhone that I think people will be pretty excited about. The first one being the action button, which you can customize to do whatever you want. You can assign it to be the camera button, you can assign it to open up a Siri shortcut. The possibilities are really endless with this one. And then there's that new fancy camera control, which Apple doesn't want to call a button. It's kind of funny. They absolutely refuse to call this a button because to them it is actually more than a button. It's camera control. So the whole point of camera control is that with one click, you get yourself right into the camera app, and then if you press down very lightly, you get access to a bunch of really cool on-screen features that you can control with just the swipe of your finger. And I'm kind of doing it right now, and it's very smooth. If you press down really hard, it takes a picture. If you hold down on the button, then you actually are now recording in video. And then when you let go of the button, it stops recording. If you light press, it opens up the zoom. So then you can use your finger to swipe to zoom. And it actually feels really good. I was thinking and expecting there was gonna be some kind of haptic feedback when you're like sliding your finger, kind of like a little vibration motor. I'm kind of surprised there's nothing here. All the feedback you're getting is very visual, but nonetheless, there is some momentum. And if you light press twice, it gives you access to a bunch of different controls like exposure, depth, zoom, cameras, styles, tone. There's a bunch of stuff here. And as I'm speaking, actually, there is a little bit of vibration when you are swiping between each category, but I noticed there's no vibration when you're actually sliding the slider. So I think that would feel pretty nice. So as some feedback, if you're watching this, I would add a little bit of vibration when you're zooming in and out, or if you're changing exposure, the same type of vibration that you're adding when I'm swiping between categories. And you can also customize this button, camera control a little bit. If you go into the settings, you can change it to be a single or a double click, and then you can assign it to do open up the camera, Instagram, and basically I believe any app installed on your phone that supports camera control, you can launch it directly with the press, which I think is pretty cool. And speaking of cameras, we do actually get a brand new camera system in the iPhone 16 that Apple is calling the 48 megapixel Fusion camera. So the main sensor is going to be 48 megapixels. There's going to be a 2x telephoto at optical quality, and then there's going to be a brand new ultra wide lens. I believe is the exact same one from the 15 Pro from last year. So there's improved low light performance. It has autofocus now on that lens, which allows for macro photography for the first time ever on the base iPhone, which I think is super cool. Very excited to test this out. I think a lot of people are going to be very happy with the cameras coming out of this phone. And if you're wondering why the orientation changed, Apple changed this orientation to be vertical because they claim, or they're saying, that this is what's going to allow you to capture spatial videos in the event that you eventually, in their eyes, buy a Vision Pro or Apple Vision if there's a cheaper one coming out in the future, so you can enjoy your memories in that spatial format. I think it's actually pretty cool, like that you could plan for the future. Obviously, it comes down to Apple making that Vision Pro affordable for everybody in the next 5 to 10 years, which I have no doubt that they're gonna do. So if you wanna plan ahead for that, you can do that by recording on these little guys here. And there's also going to be a brand new A18 chip inside of here for faster processing, better GPU and CPU speeds, kind of the stuff we always expect from brand new iPhones. Really, the purpose of this chip is to allow for Apple Intelligence to be possible on the iPhone 16, because it is not possible on any iPhone that is not the 15 Pro and up. So if you have an iPhone 15 and down, Apple Intelligence will not support it, because Apple states that it does need a really comparable chip to do that, which is only possible because of A18 on the 16 lineup. Okay, so in terms of the 16 Pro and Pro Max, which I have the Pro in my hands right now, but I am going to be getting the Pro Max tomorrow, so subscribe to stay tuned for my first impressions of that. I'm getting it in Desert Titanium on launch day. There's not a whole lot of new stuff for the Pro phones if you're always a Pro buyer, but I will say, if you are somebody that likes to make stuff on your iPhone, I think you're going to be really excited about the new camera features, which we'll get to in a second. So first things first, the 16 Pro and Pro Max are actually bigger this year. The Pro comes in at 6.3 inches, and then the Pro Max comes at 6.9 inches, making it literally the biggest iPhone they've ever made. Here is actually a side-by-side of the 16 Pro and the 14 Pro, so you can kind of see the subtle change in size, as well as the bezels being even thinner this year, just making this phone look even more futuristic. In terms of performance, we are getting a brand new A18 Pro chip, which is supposed to obviously give us faster CPU speeds, faster GPU speeds. Again, we see this every year with iPhones, they just get faster and faster, and it does enable some niche things like Apple Intelligence, which is not coming until at the minimum October, but a rollout throughout the next 12 months. It also does allow things in the camera system, such as 4K 120 frames per second in ProRes log. Like, holy smokes, that is crazy for our filmmaking friends out there. Like, the iPhone is turning into a little bit of a beast. I think the 16 Pro and Pro Max is going to be a really exciting upgrade camera-wise for people who love to create stuff on their phone. Because speaking of creating things, there's a brand new ultra-wide camera that is 48 megapixels. So it's going to be a lot sharper images this time around, and I'm really excited actually to see how well that actually stacks up, because I've been complaining for a long time, I think for the past few years, just how underwhelming the ultra-wide lens has been. I avoid using it because it just wasn't as good as I would like it to be, but I'm hoping now things are changing. Battery life is also being improved on the 16 Pro and Pro Max, so I'm really excited to see how that stacks up. I personally think the 16 Plus is going to be the longest battery life, but I was just checking my notes. Apple is claiming that the 16 Pro Max is going to be the longest lasting battery of any iPhone. So also, I can't forget to mention obviously the fact that there is the camera control button on the 16 Pro and Pro Max that gives you the same stuff that we just covered on the 16 earlier in the video. So that is the iPhone 16 and 16 Pro, at least from a very high level, quick thoughts perspective. There is a lot of stuff I actually didn't talk about, which we'll, share my full thoughts on in the full review. But I mean, I'm excited for these phones. I think a lot of people are gonna love the new iPhone 16. Like, just look at that teal color. I think the 16 is definitely the winner in terms of the upgrade category. And then the 16 Pro and Pro Max, I think it's more of an upgrade for people who like to make stuff on their iPhone. If you're not a creator, or if you don't like to take pictures, there's just not a whole lot here, at least not yet, because Apple Intelligence is still kind of around the corner. It's not here yet. And I have so many thoughts about that, but we'll share that in the full review. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any stuff about my iPhone content coming in the next couple of weeks. And drop a like, comment, #I made it if you finish this video, and I'll talk to all of you guys in the next one. Peace.